Hello and welcome back to the NUFC newsroom. I always take notes when I watch Newcastle United play, and I do it because I can discuss them on here, I can discuss them on social media, and they're just good to have and look back at sometimes. So I'll read them out to you and we'll have a discussion about them. The first thing I've written down is how easy it was for Chelsea to beat our high press, and it is a worrying thing to see when you're a fan of a team who's maybe not in the top half and gets exposed at the back, and this is worrying to see. The high press was not collective enough, and that's as simple as that. Not everyone was on the same wavelength. I think the midfielders were on a different wavelength to the strikers, and the defenders were on a different wavelength to the midfielders where the high press was concerned. And if that does happen, and it is like that, then teams, especially teams like Chelsea, they'll beat it. And if you beat a high press, then you're left with acres of space, which is what they had. They didn't make too much with it, Chelsea, which is worrying for them. But for Newcastle United, it's even more worrying. You can't. If you're going to implement a high press, everyone's got to be on the same wavelength. Then it works. Everyone knows what they need to do. But under Bruce, it's just not the case. And I thought maybe last week it had been sorted with the Southampton game. The high press that we implemented there was fantastic. We scored a goal from it, which is why you do it. So yeah, that is a worrying factor for Newcastle United. But we'll move on. I've written down no chance really in the first half, and I can't remember for the life of me if we did have a chance in the first half, which usually shows that we didn't. I really don't think we created enough in the entire game. We created more in the second half than we did for the first, but we conceded the 2 goals in the first half, so that didn't really matter. I think not creating as many chances as we usually have been in the past few weeks was probably down to Callum Wilson being injured. I think it showed Steve Bruce, showed the players, and showed us Newcastle United fans how important Wilson is when he doesn't play. He's fantastic. You could talk about Wilson for hours, how much he assists and how much he's important to this Newcastle United side. And we're going to miss him. It's going to be a long 6-7 weeks without him. And the start of it was against Chelsea, and it's gone horribly wrong. So, yeah, we'll move on. I've written down a lot of space for Chelsea's playmakers, and I thought there was, especially in the first half. For Mason Mount, there was acres of space in that midfield, and Hudson-Odoi. If you let players like that have space, they will create chances, and it's what they did. They were pretty much half chances, but there were still chances, and against better players and better teams, that will get exploited. I don't know, it just looked as though they had the freedom to do as they will. Hudson-Odoi down the right-hand side, who looked fantastic, by the way, and has looked brilliant under Thomas Tuchel. I'm excited to see how he can progress. But yeah, far too much space for them, which is so simple. So Newcastle United have a habit of letting teams pick up confidence against them. So if you remember back in the day when Derby had that season where they got the least amount of points ever in a Premier League season, it took them a certain amount of games to not win a game, and the first win of the season came against Newcastle United, which is a familiar story because it happened this season with Sheffield United. It took Sheffield 17 or 18 games to get a win, and of course that win came against us. It's embarrassing, really, where that's concerned. And yesterday it happened again. Timo Werner hasn't scored for hours in the Premier League, and he scores against Newcastle. Also, Kepa, the goalkeeper, started. Wasn't a problem. He hasn't started since mid-October, and it was just nothing. It's like he's been between the sticks all season. We didn't target him. He got a clean sheet, so that's all there is to say about that. And I also thought when Newcastle were attacking, the formation we played was too narrow. I thought it was too narrow going forward. The only ball that was on was Dwight Gale, and it just did not work. The fullbacks weren't getting round, they weren't overlapping, so there was no runs really out wide. So when we're attacking, it was so narrow, and it's hard to create chances. If you don't have brilliant technical players when you're playing a narrow attacking football, it's hard to make chances, and we didn't have them players. Willock tried to nimble his way through a few times, but it didn't work. If there was going to be a goal from Newcastle, it would be from someone making a chance themselves. We were never going to create a chance as a team. especially in that first half. I didn't think Alan Saint-Maximin was too good, but then again, I don't think anybody was too good. I don't think anyone got above 6 out of 10. Darlow made a few saves. Could argue he was at fault for the Giroud goal. That's tough. But yeah, ASM. I thought after the Southampton game, I thought we'd see progress from Alan Saint-Maximin, and it's hard to criticise him because the whole team didn't have a good game. But I thought he needs to release the ball quicker. He did it against Southampton and got himself 2 assists. We know he can get anywhere with that ball. It's whether he can release it and find that end product, which he was brilliant at last weekend, and he was not so good at it. Yesterday kept the ball too long for me. I saw a lot of people on social media saying he's better off the bench, which does make sense, but I do not agree with. And I've put at the end, you can tell we miss Wilson, which we discussed. So we're going to discuss the second half now. However, there's not much to shout about, to be honest. It was a very flat and dull second half. The neutral, I reckon they'll have turned it off 10 minutes in. I was close to doing that, to be honest. Newcastle had a few chances. Miguel Almiron hit one on the volley just over. Joe Willock had a header on target, saved by Kepa. That's all there is to write about, to be honest. Not too much happened. And it just didn't look like the players knew what situation we're in. I do think that a lot about Newcastle United, and especially yesterday. It didn't look like they were up for it. It didn't look like they wanted to play. You see teams like Fulham and West Brom, Fulham and West Brom especially, playing like they want to win, playing like they know the situation they're in, playing with the heart on the sleeve, and I just don't get that from the Newcastle United players, especially yesterday, and that's partly the manager's job. The manager's job is to make sure the players are ready for fixtures upcoming and make sure they're up for it, and it just wasn't. It shows that Steve Bruce, that part of his management is just not good, and it's worrying to see, because how are they going to react now with crucial games coming up? Absolutely crucial. Fulham have Sheffield United and Burnley next, while Newcastle have Manchester United. So it could get quite worrying in the next few weeks. I'm just going to read you a tweet here from Mark Douglas, a Newcastle United journalist. He said, "Such a flat, listless performance from a team in a proper fight at the bottom." So that's what I spoke about a few seconds ago, about the players not realising the situation we're in. Let's be real, we're in a relegation fight, and it does not look like the players realise that. We're not playing like that. He also touched on how we could have done something different in January, which I do agree with. We could have really changed it up in January, Newcastle United, but we could have brought in a new manager, we could have brought in a few new players, but instead we've done the exact opposite, and we've decided to stick with what we've got, which is Steve Bruce and a bunch of, some average footballers, let's be honest. So I tweeted out last night that how the club's been ran, if you can even call it that, this season, they deserve to go down. Everything from the management to the transfers coming in, it's all been poor. And we really could have changed it up in January, but we decided to stick with what we've got, which is Steve Bruce, which is strange for me, because Mike Ashley needs to stay in the Premier League. If he wants his takeover deal done, which he stated in the past he does, he needs to stay in the Premier League. A Championship club to buy us, it just won't happen. If we want this takeover deal to go through, we have to be in the Premier League, which is why I'm so intrigued as to why Ashley's leaving it this late to do anything. It happened with McLaren, and I'm scared it's going to happen again. It's coming up to that time. We're only 2 weeks away from March now, which is what happened with McLaren. We kept it until March. Brought in Rafa, and it was too late. It's going to be a worrying end to the season, especially if Steve Bruce is there. Let's just hope we can grind out some results one way or another. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to follow my Twitter, where I do pretty much everything, I'll put it in the description. It's at NUFC Newsroom _. And yeah, thank you for watching.